If you was voting in America, who would you vote for?
Definitely not Trump.
RFK.
Have you heard that he dropped out to endorse Trump?
Yes. That was a big mistake on his part.
I agree.
Foolish. Absolutely foolish. He would have been so good. The greatest president ever. He was going to reform the whole system. It's such a shame. It's genuinely such a shame.
Do you believe Trump will follow through with the promises that he's given to RFK?
No. I think Trump's a lying,
Scoundrel.
he's a sleazy man. He's a sleazy
He's a
man,
scoundrel.
right?
Yeah.
RFK deserves so much better.
Yeah.
Probably Harris, to say the least, yeah. I don't think Trump's the best place to be, so, yeah.
Fuck yous all, you little muppets.
Fuck that little girl, bro. Trump all the way. Fuck all everyone in it. Fuck that bird, bro. Fuck the birds in it. Trump all the way. What's she even called, that bird?
Kamala.
Who?
Kamala Harris. The one that is going against.
Never heard of her. Trump in it.
I would of course vote for Donald Trump, man. I love that man. The spirit of that man.
Stand, only jail stand.
Yeah, I love Donald Trump and I would definitely go for him.
Why don't you like Kamala Harris?
Actually, it's not like I don't like her or him, but it's like I like Donald Trump, so that's the reason. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Donald Trump. Like, he's so fucking patriot for his country and he's doing good, whatever. Like, people don't like him, a lot of them, but I think that he's a bold man and he's actually on the point, doing everything which is required for the betterment of the country, especially United States. It's the biggest economy in the world, so someone like him, someone, eccentric like him is needed to work on that country. Yeah.
So, as much as I know is that Trump's running again, that's about it. I don't really follow US politics.
Do you have an opinion on who you would vote for if you was over there?
Not really. I mean, it depends who's campaigning. You know what I mean? I'd look at campaigns and pros and cons. I don't really know. As much as I know, I think, is it Biden and Trump that are running against each other again for this election? Or I don't know, what is it?
If you was in America, who would you vote for?
I wouldn't vote for Trump. In the first place, I was completely amazed when Americans in San Francisco, how they're going to vote for Trump. And I thought it was totally wrong even then. And the fact is, when it turns out what he's done with the administration and the prosecutions, and it's not followed through. So I think it's just absolutely amazing how it's worked out. He's doing everything to avoid impeachment. How he's got around it, I'll never know, because he's going to be impeached after the election. But he'll probably get away around that.
Probably Kamala Harris.
And why is that?
Well, I've actually not been keeping up with the political side of it too much, but obviously Trump isn't a big fan of foreigners, and I am a foreigner. And I am more aligned with her. I mean, not that I'm more aligned with her political beliefs, because once again, I don't actually really know what she stands for, actually. More that I'm against Trump's belief. So more of a cancelling a vote in action.
I would support jail stand. If not jail stand, if it's between Kamala and Donald Trump, so I will go for Donald Trump, not ever supporting Kamala, because I believe she's against humanity. In a power, she's still in a power and doing nothing for people of Gaza. They are dying, they are starving, they are the massacre, and she's doing nothing exactly. So that's why I will never support her.
What did Donald Trump do for Gaza?
He is not in a power yet.
No, whilst he was in power.
So there was nothing like there was no war in Palestine at that time. It was, I believe, peace.
The Israelis would call it mowing the lawn. They would still regularly bomb parts of Gaza. They would say is occupied by Hamas, even during the time of peace. That was during the time of Donald Trump.
No, I don't believe that ever happened. That has ever happened. So, what I'm saying to the people of America, don't ever support Kamala. Donald Trump is your man, and he will win. If he doesn't, so that might be a rigged election, I believe.
Well, we've already voted because we were going to be here, and I voted for Kamala Harris.
I did as well. Is this going to go on national television?
It's really difficult, the U.S. election and U.S. politics right now. I mostly voted for Kamala Harris because I don't want Donald Trump to be in office again, and I fear what would happen if he did, but it's Kamala Harris's not backing policies that really I think I don't like most of her policies. I think she's much more center or to the right than I want. And so voting for Kamala Harris, while I think it's often in American politics, especially since I've been voting since 2020. That was the first election I could vote in, which was the last one. You just sort of vote for the lesser of two evils, but ultimately I believe the United States is one of the biggest evils in the world right now. So it's really tough. It's really tough, and I wanted to vote, so I decided, because also it's not only the president that you vote for, but it's all for things for, policies in your state. But yeah, it was a hard choice.
So it do not matters. Like people do have different opinions. It's totally okay to have different opinions. But what I think is that people should actually see the bigger picture. A lot of times Donald Trump is being racist and he is against the immigrants, but it is somehow good for the country. I'm myself I'm here as an immigrant, so I understand that pain, but still I am a big fan of Donald Trump due to his policies and things which is going to do or implement for the United States. So for all of people who think that he's not that good, they might have their opinions, but I personally think that Donald Trump will win, and he got some good support in his country and from all around the world.
And what would you say the key issue is that you have against Donald Trump?
Policy on foreigners, because obviously foreigners pay a lot in tax. People think that illegal immigrants obviously don't pay any taxes and stuff, which is just wrong. That's not how immigration works. So they think that they don't pay any in tax, so that they're like kind of dead weight in America, which isn't how it works at all. Which is why a lot of the racists that you see that support Trump advocate for his policies in getting rid of foreigners, they get the immigrants out of my country and stuff like that. If all those immigrants left the country, a lot of their healthcare and services such as that would fall through, because a lot of the funding, I think it's like 96 billion just from illegal immigrants alone goes towards, I forgot what it's called, but it's some form of healthcare. So that would all get gone if some of Trump's policies were enacted. Probably one of the main ones that I'm against.
I wish Nixon was still around and he could be the president, because he did a really good job last time. He's just a funny guy. He's just a funny guy.
You're a fan of him on Futurama?
Yeah, I just love everything to do with Nixon. I'm the biggest Nixon fan around.
Why have you got mate Carlton Gate on?
I'm Australian, so Carlton's a football team back home, and one of the teams back home made it for the finals last year, so I bought the hat, so I was going along with the Donald Trump theme, so yeah.
We're pretty new to Kansas City.
We've been living there a year.
Just over a year, and I'm originally from Oregon, and I've also lived in Washington and Colorado, which are all blue states. So it's the first time I've ever lived in a red state, first time I've ever lived in the proper Midwest, and certainly I feel every metropolitan area I've been and lived in, there's a huge pocket of liberal people, of leftists, and but I'd say Kansas City is much more surrounded by right-wing politics than, or at least it feels so.
Yeah.
It feels much more surrounded than any other place I've been to. Yeah, so I felt kind of good. I felt good to vote in a red state, to vote Democrat in a red state. Feels like, yeah, but like how much power will my vote have? I don't know.
It would be worse for the West and for Ukraine and everything else if he gets in. He's going to support Putin for a start, which is totally wrong.
And how do you think he'll negatively affect Ukraine's war efforts?
Pretty disastrous for him, really. There's even now the opposition saying that they should cut it, and she might lose a vote because she's going to support him, which they're very insular, America, the public are.
I don't know. I know a lot of people didn't like him. I thought he was a guy that was pretty ballsy. You know what I mean? He didn't really give a shit what anyone thought. I'd probably back Trump, and just because he did a lot. If you actually knew what he did through his presidency, through his time in office, I think he actually did quite a lot, and people underestimate him for that. They just see him as like a bit of a loudmouth guy who just kind of shouts off his mind. But at the end of the day, he's, you know what I mean, he's a multi-billionaire, trillionaire, owns a lot of business, you know what I mean, he's a business smart man. So in the terms of whether you think he'd be good for the States as a people, I don't know, but I believe his mindset and being in a position of power like he already has been, I think personally he'd be the guy for the job. So
I think the biggest difference between the two is how much do they believe in the institution and infrastructure of American governance and politics, right? So I think Donald Trump is somebody who is very actively looking to disassemble and dismantle the way that our current institutions work, right? That he's replacing the Supreme Court with people who are more interested in supporting his agenda or some sort of right-wing agenda than they are with abiding by the intention of that institution and protecting the legitimacy and the longevity of that institution. That if you look at a decision like what happened with abortion, it's something that goes against precedent and that undermines the narrative of the institution and the legitimacy of it, right? That we have this idea of the Supreme Court where we go, it's this thing that's nonpartisan, it's this thing where their decisions are kind of permanent, right? And then to just kind of throw it out in a way that's very obviously partisan, I think kind of undermines this feeling of legitimacy that it has. And I think Donald Trump himself has very openly said, like, he doesn't care if he wins or loses the election. He claims I win the election. He's somebody that he has a lot of disdain, I would say, for like those institutions and that infrastructure. And I think a huge part of the response that you have on the Democratic side, like with Kamala Harris, is this like, no, we need to protect these institutions, right? We can't destroy American democracy. We need to maintain our system of voting and our system of laws, and like we can't let somebody get away with just kind of flaunting the rule of law. So I think that's a lot of where that election comes down to is the kind of preservation of our existing system of governments versus throwing it
a possible dictatorship.
Yes,
right. There's that fear that if Trump gets in, that he'll never get out, right? And there's the ruling that the Supreme Court did. I don't know if ruling's the right word, but they said the president can do anything as long as it's an official act. What does that mean? That's so broad, right? Then anything the president does as an official act, it just makes you really step back and go, well, okay, well, what does that mean? What does that mean for the future of America, the future of politics? And if Kamala gets in, I mean, something that they're saying is like abortion being a federal right. But in terms of, I don't know. I would hope actually, she's taken kind of a more center in terms of her policies and where she stands on things like fracking and like the Israel and Palestine conflict,
or
and
even like I think
the
that
genocide.
campaign is becoming more and more reluctant to be pro-trans rights or these kinds of things, and I think that I don't know. I lost my train of thought.
It's like you hope that it's a little bit more of just a tactic. That's not actually because.
Right, but she keeps aligning. This is what I was going to say. She keeps aligning herself with people that I consider to be very right-wing figures. That you've seen an endorsement from Dick Cheney, who's somebody who is responsible for at least 1 million deaths directly, and probably a lot more. And so to say like this is an endorsement that I'm not going to reject and I'm going to actively campaign with his daughter is like that to me is an incredibly right-wing position. And especially going back to this question of how does the U.S. affect the rest of the world, it's like we're killing people. We're killing people in the rest of the world, and it's hard for me to feel comfortable with a candidate that is so willing to align herself with this project that is part of this very destructive and kind of deadly thing. So
circling back to Palestine and Israel, if Trump wasn't the person running against Kamala, would Kamala's response to that be something that would cause you not to vote for her?
Oh, you mean like if she was running against somebody else, but if she still had the same sort of stance? If the other candidate was more supportive of Palestine and the people in Gaza, it would be a huge sway, like in that, imagined candidate's favor. It would be a huge sway. I think that's one of the biggest things, one of the most egregious things happening in the world right now, that the U.S. has very direct, what's the word?
Culpability.
Culpability. Like we have the power to do something to stop it, and we're not.
It do not matters if he do not wins, but still, he have the campaigns he made and the work he's doing. That also that has changed mind for a lot of people. So someone will replace him. It's not necessary that only Donald Trump can do what he's doing. It's about the ideology he is giving. So it's about the things he want to practice in the economy or in the country. So that's what matters, and definitely someone will be there, if not Donald Trump exactly.
It's in the balance. There's only a few people now which can control the balance of it, a few thousand, and it's very it's going to be really in the balance. I mean, even when Clinton, his wife, went in for that, they thought she was ahead and got nowhere.
If you are in America,
don't vote Trump.
Just don't do Trump. Anyone
please, you're
but
destroying
Trump.
the world.
Do you believe the American elections affect the rest of the world?
Probably, yeah, because I believe that the US president is one of, if not the most powerful person on the planet, considering who they sort of liaise with at the time. So, yeah, absolutely, I do think it could affect a lot, because the US is at a lot of different odds with a lot of different countries. So, yeah, absolutely, I do believe that whoever's in that office does kind of have a massive influence over not just over the US, over everywhere. Do you know what I mean? It's a powerful person, so. I mean, how could you not say that they couldn't influence? They could influence a lot. They could influence fuck all. So.
Of
Oh,
course,
yeah.
they affect the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the United States is one of the most influential or powerful countries right now. I think that for a long time it was the single most powerful country on Earth, and I think only recently is there even a question of because I think China is becoming more and more, powerful and
the US
influential as a country, and I think the U.S. is starting to lose some of its dominance in terms of global politics. But I think particularly in the part of the world that we are right now, like England and Europe and the more Western parts of the countries, I think that the United States clearly has a huge influence. And I think the thing about the United States is that the president has a lot of say when it comes to foreign affairs. So I think, of course, our election affects everybody in England and the rest of the world in a big way.
Yes, it does. I reckon it does. America, whoever goes in, really, America's the main one that controls really the whole world and where it comes from. So, yeah, pretty much. However this election goes, it's a bit worrying if whoever gets in. So, yeah.
I believe that it affects the world. A big global superpower such as America is obviously going to affect the world through trade and stuff like that. So I don't know how Trump getting elected specifically would affect that. I'm guessing stuff like stocks, shares, companies based in America that are heavily tied into the government, like places that maybe sell weaponry and stuff. If Trump decides to switch the allocation of money more towards the military, that might affect global trade in terms of resources like iron and stuff like that. I don't really know though.
Yeah, they're just puppets, right? Like politicians are just puppets to what corporations want, which I think. Yeah, I don't like it. I would say it seems pretty bad to me. I don't think the thing about corporations is their bottom line is money, and that often goes against humanity and what's best for humanity.
Or the will of the people who would be voting in elections. But I don't think that as long as I've lived, America as a country has been very beholden to the interests of corporations, and that doesn't feel like something that is new to me, and I can't even really conceptualize what the American government would look like.
I wish Bernie Sanders was running, I guess. Like,
I actually like Marianne Williamson.
Oh, you
I'm
do
gonna
like
get canceled for this, but I thought she was great. I loved her. She was pro reparations for black people. I think that's amazing. And I think we do need more love in the world.
Yeah.
And I think that she was dismissed because she's a little bit too feminine. But I don't know.
I'm pretty scared and concerned about what it's gonna be like. I think America is kind of a violent country. I mean, we have so much gun violence all the time, and I don't imagine that there will be any less. And I've only heard through like hearsay and like through other people. I've not seen anything directly, but I've just heard like people who support Trump say like if he doesn't win, they're gonna just start shooting, just start killing people. So I'm definitely concerned about that, but as far as I'm concerned, the U.S. already feels like a pretty scary, violent place. Yeah, hard to. We're gonna go back in less than a week, and I'm pretty concerned.
Yeah,
But
we'll see what happens. I suppose.
I'm not like I don't think that's impossible. Like I think that's a real possibility. I think war and violence is a terrible thing, but it certainly feels like people are just being pushed to the edge.